Hello, this is Edith Neumeyer, and I am the author of the book The Mystery of Adam. Hope you're doing well today. Today I want to talk about comparing Daniel's statue in Daniel 2. Actually, it's Nebuchadnezzar who had a dream of this statue. And of course, then Daniel explained it to the king what this statue is all about. Now, I don't hear very often people talking about this statue, even though we need to know about the statue in order to understand the beasts in Daniel 7 that came out of the sea. Everybody seems to think they know who this beast is. But really, unless we understand Daniel's statue, most people just really go wrong when they look at this beast or beasts out of the sea. Now, again, these beasts, I have said that so many times, are political systems. They are empires. And we will see that very clearly. It's not as clear in Daniel 7. But anybody with the Holy Spirit, just teeny bitty part of the Holy Spirit, should understand that there is a comparison between the statue and the four beasts. This statue is also 4 parts. Okay, 4 parts. And what are those 4 parts of the statue? Of course, they are what? They are empires, people. Empires. They're not anything else. They're empires. Daniel says it. He comes out and says it. The head is the Babylonian Empire. What's the next one? The torso is the Persian Empire. Then you have the middle part, the lower part, that is the Greek Empire. And then, of course, you have the legs, who are made up of iron, and they are what? They are the Roman Empire. Okay? So it's not difficult to understand. I mean, Daniel explains it very clearly. Okay, so there's going to be the Babylonian Empire, and I believe that Nebuchadnezzar was part of that Babylonian Empire. Then there will be a Persian Empire. Then there will be a Greek Empire. And then there will be another empire, the Roman Empire. And that Roman Empire is kind of strange because it is iron, and that's what the Rome was. Rome was iron. Okay, they were strong. But eventually the toes are iron and clay, and they are not as strong as the Roman Empire, but they are still a part of the Roman Empire. Now, that last empire, right? The empire, the Roman Empire, that is the empire that will exist until Jesus returns. Okay, until Jesus returns. Now, here it says, this is the meaning of the vision of the rock cut out of a mountain, but not by human hand, a rock that broke the iron, the bronze, the clay, the silver, and the gold to pieces. And of course, we know that that is the rock that will destroy the whole system, the whole statue, and the whole system. And that happens, that is Jesus. When he returns, the second time, he will destroy everything. Okay, and it says 47 is that the king said to Daniel, surely your God is the God of gods and the Lord of lords and the revealer of mysteries, for you were able to reveal the mystery. That's what Daniel revealed to the king. Now the king didn't have to worry about it. Well, he did, because his kingdom would fall as well, and all the other kingdoms would fall. So what is this iron mixed with clay? We know iron is the strength of the empire of Rome. Now, where is the clay coming from? The clay is papacy. All empires, all four empires, okay, they came out, of course, Babylon. Babylon, the next Persian, the next Greek, and then the Roman Empire. What was similar to all empires, they had the same religious system all the way back to Babylon. Every empire of the world, everybody in the world, every religion, every gods can trace themselves back to the Babylonian gods. Now, if I don't want to go into detail, you want to read a book called The Two Babylons by Hislop. He describes that very well, how he traces all religious practices, all gods of this whole world back to the Babylonian gods, Nimrod and Semiramis. So they can all be traced back to there. And that's what you then see in this last empire, the Roman Empire. What happened in the Roman Empire is that the empire didn't just use the religious system, but during the Roman Empire, that system got mixed in with the political system. Okay, we see that when we now go to Daniel 7, we see that on top of this last beast, the fourth beast out of the sea, which is the Roman Empire, 10 horns grew. And that is, you can compare that to the 10 toes of the statue. Now, you're going to have to read this yourself. Maybe, matter of fact, you may just turn it off right now, go back and really read each chapter, because I don't want to read the chapters. You can do that yourself. Now, read it several times. You have a good understanding of what the chapters are about, chapter 2 and chapter 7. So, because then when we go to this 7th chapter and we look at the 7th beast, the 4th beast, it had 10 horns. These 10 horns are comparable to the 10 toes of the statue. Okay, same thing. They're symbolic, but they are comparable. There were 10 horns that came out of the beast. That is what signifies the beast. The beast was just not a regular beast anymore, but it morphed into more than just this Roman Empire. It continued. When this Roman Empire died, it continued. We know that the Roman Empire was split in half. Okay, so we see the two legs, symbolic again. They were still iron. Both of them were still iron. They were split in half. Okay, so there were two parts of the Roman Empire. Then that Roman Empire continued in the 10 horns, which were the European kingdoms. And this word Roman Empire kept alive in the European countries. Okay, there was always the talk of a Holy Roman Empire. Holy Roman Empire means religion mixed with political system. So this beast, this fourth beast, became a mix of religion and of political machine or political empire. Now, of course, it was what? Brittle. Why? Because it wasn't as strong as the Roman Empire. Because it was a mix. Now, again, what was it mixed of? It was a mix of religion and political system. See, the rulers, the kings, couldn't just do what they wanted anymore. And that made it weak. They depended on the Pope to give them the blessing. Because if they would not get the blessing of the Pope, they believed they were weak and God would not support them. So the popes were controlling all the kings of Europe. And they said, well, if you don't do as I say, God is not supporting you and God will destroy you. Okay? So, this is what you need to understand. It's a political system. And know that there is no other political empire or political system after that fourth beast or after those 10 toes. Now we have something called the beast out of the earth in Revelation 13. But that beast, people, that beast is only part of this fourth beast. It is really God, John calls him the false prophet. Now, don't make a mistake. So many people make a mistake and really think that this false prophet is a religious man, okay? A religious person. But it's not. The beast out of the earth is political. All beasts are political. Now, this last beast is a mix, okay? Iron mixed with clay. So it mixed with religion. And most people don't understand that today anymore because most people say, well, we're not Catholic. Okay, we're not bowing down to the Catholic Church anymore. Even in Europe, people say that. And yet still the Catholic, the Church, the Vatican, papacy still has a control in these countries without them even knowing it. Okay, that is the most important thing, that they are today doing it in secret. In secret. So nobody can detect them and get rid of them. Because that's exactly what papacy did in the United States in this last beast, this beast out of the earth. But remember, that beast out of the earth bows down to the last beast out of the sea. Okay? So there is no other empire, people. People think, oh, there's going to be a ruler at the end. Oh, there's Antichrist. There is nothing in the Bible saying that there's a one-man ruler coming at the end. No place. Okay? Of course, the Bible talks as if it were a ruler, one man. Like, for instance, the man of sin, okay, or the Antichrist that John described in his letters. But they are not one man. If we read it carefully, we know that, for instance, Antichrist is all people that are against Jesus coming in the flesh, against Jesus being God in the flesh. That's what Antichrist is. So this one ruler at the end doesn't exist. It takes many thousands of years sometimes. Look at in the case of the Roman Empire, that existed 2,000 years. In the case of the American Empire, because that's the only last empire that we have right now. It took America 250 years to become an empire. Empires are not coming into existence, just overnight. I mean, some force has to take over. Look at how, for instance, the Greek Empire came about. Or let's see how the Roman Empire came about. It's not like overnight. This empire developed, okay, got stronger and stronger, and then eventually took over the next or the previous empire. That's how things go. They have to, it has to develop. because the political system has to grow into a strong military system. Nobody can do nothing without a military backup. Okay? It has to be a military or political backup. Nobody can do anything without that. So, or like a financial system. They have to have a financial system that they will control everybody. So you need to understand that nothing comes out of a vacuum. And when you look at that statue, there are 4 parts to the statue, not more. Not more. There's no individual ruler anywhere in that statue. It is empires, 4 empires. And within the 4 empires, there are many rulers. Okay? Many one-man rulers. So that last part of the empire, the 10 toes, that's what we're living in today. Okay? And of course, again, it's kind of confusing because then, John throws in this false prophet, which also is, of course, an empire. Beast is always empire. Okay? So it is the beast out of the earth. What beast came out of the earth? Okay, that bows down to the European Empire right now, that gets its power from the European Empire. Think about that. The United States received its power from the European countries. They invited the United States into the First World War, or drew into the First World War and in the Second World War. And because the United States came into the First and the Second World War at the end, okay, that is why they defeated and came out on top. Not because they were in from the beginning. No, when everybody was already dead and destroyed, the United States entered every time. And that's how they came out on top. And do you know who invited them in? The European countries, England and France. They invited the United States in there so United States would help them defeat the other horns like Germany, Russia. Okay, during the first World War, Russia was defeated, okay? And the Second World War, only Germany was defeated. And the other ones kind of split up, Germany. So they invited this last empire into this whole thing, and they allowed this last empire to take over. And this last empire, the United States, took over Europe, okay? Because they did take over Europe, if you think about it. Who is in charge of NATO? It's really the United States military is in charge of NATO. They pull the strings. Yeah, they're working together, of course, with the European countries, with England and France and even Germany. They're working together, but make no mistake, we're dealing with one beast, which is the last section, the Roman Empire, the iron mixed with clay. That's what we're dealing with. And the United States allowed themselves to be pulled into that. And that's why we're reading in Revelation 13 exactly, okay, we can go there right now. That the first beast gives them the power. It says, then I saw a second beast coming out of the earth. It had 2 horns like a lamb, but it spoke like a dragon. And that's, United States. Okay, it's the last empire. Now, it's not just the United States. The United States as an empire. That's what it is. And I think most people don't even understand that. They have been in La La Land for I don't know how long. It is the United States, what the United States had become after the Second World War. In other words, the United States has taken over the world as an empire. Okay? But it exercised all the authority of the first beast on its behalf. Okay? On its behalf. That's why I'm saying these countries invited that beast. Invited that empire, made it big, made the United States big. The United States could become big because of those countries. The United States could become a world empire because of those countries, because they invited him and they allowed them, to exercise the military power there. Okay? So they fused. Was it a fusion? Of, again, the United States and Europe, and combining and becoming this world empire that we are having today. And people make no mistake, we are having a world empire. That the Bible does not tell us that there's going to be anything else. There's going to be 4 empires. 4, only 4. And the 4th was different than the first 3 because it had the horns. And it was even mixed because it had the little horn who is the smallest kingdom in Europe, the Vatican, that ruled the 10 horns in Europe. And these 10 horns, or at least some of them, invited now this last empire into this whole thing. And it says clearly, it exercised all the authority of the first beast on its behalf. Okay, on its behalf. And made the earth and its inhabitants worship the first beast. Again, what is the first beast? The first beast is definitely not only a religious system. Okay, the religious part is, in addition, it's sitting on top of the beast. We see that in Revelation 17. Babylon the Great is sitting on the beast. That's the religious system. Okay? The beast in itself is not religious. It is political. But it does what the whore on top tells them. Okay? So, this beast out of the earth made the earth and its inhabitants worship the first beast whose fatal wound had been healed. Okay, again, I think, said about that, what fatal wound was healed? Okay, was their fatal wound healed with that first beast? There's different ways to look at it. Okay, did Europe have a fatal wound? I think so. I mean, after the First and Second World War, Europe was extremely wounded. Okay, it was, you can say it was extremely wounded. And we can say that. Some people say it's papacy who was wounded. Okay, some interpret it that way. But when we look at the beast and it's a political system, then they were saying, okay, was the European beast wounded? Yeah, I think we can say that. These horns were wounded. And, these kingdoms came back to life after maybe the Second World War, after, the United States kind of interfered. And in the past 70 years in Europe, they had really a revival. And they're doing, much better. So is that what the Bible's talking about, the wound, the fatal wound that was healed, and it looked like Europe was broke after the First and Second World War. You should have looked at things, after the First World War. It was devastated. After the Second World War, Europe was devastated. Okay, Europe would have been gone without the help of the United States. So anyways, and it performed great signs, even causing fire to come down from heaven. Okay, so it performed great signs. That some people explain it as miracles. Okay, great signs. Does the United States, this empire, this new world order, do they perform great signs? I would think so. They have performed a lot of great signs. I mean, scientific signs and, some pretty amazing things that we could consider as signs. And even they caused fire come down from heaven. Okay, so we have bombs, like atom bombs that come down from heaven. Fire. Okay, that's those signs. Yeah, they're signs. Okay, so we have atom bombs. Because of the signs, it was given power to perform on behalf of the first beast. Okay, so because of the signs, because of all the things it could do, it was given power to perform on the behalf of the first beast. Okay, so again, bowing down to the first beast. It deceived the inhabitants of the earth. So it deceived the inhabitants. Have we been deceived? Oh, we've been deceived like crazy. I have mentioned 9/11. That's the biggest deception, I would think. Now, of course, we have a new deception with this coronavirus. Are those deceptions? Yeah, there are absolute deceptions, okay, of this beast out of the earth. And why is it able to deceive us? Well, because of the first beast as well. The first beast is supporting it. Beast out of the sea, European countries are supporting it. What do you think happened during the coronavirus? We all supported it. The United States and Europe supported this nonsense, this deception. Okay? So, yeah, they're all in on it. NATO is all in on it. So this is all talking about what is happening today. Now, before I come to an end, I want to remind you that in neither of these sections of this statue was a gap. Okay? Please become aware of that. None of in between any of the sections of the empires was ever a gap. And I have explained that very well. Okay? One empire develops in the shadow and until it gets big enough, and then it takes over the next the previous empire. And then that empire becomes big, and then during that empire, another empire becomes big and then takes over the next one. That happened with the Babylonians. It was the Babylonian Empire, then the Persian Empire. Of course, the Persian Empire developed until it was big enough to take over the Babylonian. Same thing with the Greek. The Greeks, developed, and then finally Alexander the Great took over the Persian Empire because he becomes more powerful and the army becomes more powerful. And then there's the Greek Empire, and it kind of develops until the Roman Empire became strong enough and took over the Greek Empire. Okay, so that's how things happen, except that the Roman Empire really never fell, in a sense, not according to the vision of God. That really the Roman Empire morphed into something totally different. And I have talked about that before when I talked about Satan. Because see, that's what happened. During that time, Satan fell. Okay, before John's time, when Jesus died on the cross and was resurrected, there was no more room for Satan found in heaven. And that is in Revelation 12. Satan was kicked out of heaven. And because he was kicked out of heaven, he used the Roman Empire and changed that Roman Empire into his likeness. That's how the Roman Empire became a mix of religion and politics. That's why we have had the clay and the iron mixed, because of Satan transforming that last empire into his own likeness. And I made a video had to do with the fall of Satan, and you can look it up. I think maybe I'll put it on the bottom if I don't forget it. And that's where we can see very strongly how this again, this last beast morphed into the likeness of Satan. But I'm coming to an end right now. Read these 2 chapters again, actually 3 chapters, because there's also Revelation 13 that you need to read. But I focus today on Daniel 2 and Daniel 7. Again, there's no gaps. I just need to really stress that. Because so many people think, oh, the Roman Empire fell, and so the Roman Empire will be revived after 2,000 years. The 10 horns come out of the beast. No, people, 2,000 years, the beast is dead. If it would have been dead, it would be dead now. It wouldn't be revived anymore. Sorry. That's it. Okay? But that doesn't happen. No place is there a gap. You look at the statue, you cannot have a gap in a statue, or else the statue would be broken. One empire comes in the next empire. They're all together. Actually, they're one beast system anyways. Okay? Same thing, you look at the beasts. There's not one time when there is no beast. There's no gap. They're all there. And right now we have been in this last beast, in the Roman Empire beast. Okay, if you want to call it Roman Empire, and that last beast, we have been in that for the past 2,000 years. And that beast is coming to an end. Why? Because our human history is coming to an end. And people need to understand that too. So, I'm coming to an end too. Read them again, and always let the Holy Spirit guide you.